Anyone who knows me knows that I love iCarly. Ever since I was young, I've always been fascinated with live streaming and the idea of web shows. It was always my dream to produce one, and now at the age of 22 years old, I have my own virtual web show called nico.radio. Whether it's a virtual open mic night or even a virtual concert, I'm always so excited to put something out on the internet for people to see. Through all of my shows, I try to get my community of artists engaged with that idea, so that they too can host their own web shows someday. And with the current climate of live performances, it's looking like live streams is the perfect alternative. It's my belief that regardless of what happens out in the real world, the live streaming business will be very popular in the next few years. And having the skills to live stream will be invaluable. So today, I'd like to walk you through how I live stream and how you too can reach your audience through live streaming. Of course, there's very easy ways you can start live streaming, simply by pressing Instagram Live, or maybe pressing Facebook Live. Usually it's one button away, but you're limited to only using your camera. In this tutorial, I'll teach you what you need and how you can add slides or different segments or more professional audio to your live stream. For starters, there is some hardware and software that you're going to need before you can have a professional stream. Obviously, you're going to need a computer, and the processing power and memory of that computer will ultimately decide how well your stream comes out. If you have a MacBook Pro that's been made in the last 4 or 5 years, you're probably okay to start streaming. I recommend that PCs have at least 8 gigabytes of RAM and at least a quad-core processor. If you're unsure if you meet those requirements, it's probably okay. Technically, if your computer works, you can still stream. You'll also want to invest in a decent microphone, especially artists. You could buy a USB microphone, but that limits your capabilities of using that anywhere else but a computer. This is why I also recommend purchasing an audio interface. This is a USB device that you can connect to your computer to start recording audio. Once you have audio, you'll want to look at getting video next. While you might have a built-in webcam, most of them only record at 720p. If you want the highest quality video, invest in a webcam that records at 1080p. And finally, to ensure that your high-quality audio is streamed with your high-quality video, you'll want to purchase an Ethernet cable so you can connect to your router for the most immediate connection to the internet. Now, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that you have an internet upload speed of 3 megabits per second or greater. You can always conduct a speed test online to figure out your download speed and upload speed, but in terms of live streaming, you'll only want to focus on that second number, the upload speed. That number is how much data you can send per second to your streaming platform. To keep things simple, when you plug in your device using an Ethernet cable, that might allow you to use more of your bandwidth, or basically use more data to send and receive. You'll be sending data from one piece of free software out there, and it's called OBS Studio. There are some alternatives to OBS that allow you to do different things with your live streaming, maybe based on whether you have a Mac or a PC. But for me, OBS is usually the easiest and most quick way to get to live streaming. Before we can start streaming using OBS, it's important to understand the 5 main components of the interface. It starts in the bottom left with the scenes. Just like any movie scene or Broadway show scene, there are certain elements or props or backdrops and then actors that come on screen at that time. Well, here in OBS, your scenes are a collection of sources, which are on the right of your scenes. When I go through my different scenes, you'll see that the sources change, as well as the screen, of course, right? It's important that we add the right sources to every scene. Now, in my starting soon scene, I have just an image. You can add sources with this little plus button right here. All the different sources that you can apply come up. Audio, display, images, video captures like a webcam, window capture, so like maybe you have a window open on your computer and you want to record just that program. Here, I'm just using an image. I can hide that image by pressing the eyeball, and it crosses out. And then I can unhide it or hide it using that button. I can lock it to the screen by pressing the lock as well. But anyway, as I want to go through my scenes, I can go through them in order by moving these buttons here and there. So if I want starting soon to come first and then commercials next, I can order that up and down and just go in order. Now every source will have to be in the scene that you want it. and then you can rearrange those sources up here at the top. So I have the image, which I've called host backdrop. I have that image up there. I can right click the image on the screen and go through all of the options to make it look the best. So right now I'm using fit to screen. That makes it so the image takes over the whole entire screen. Then I have my webcam video, okay? I'm gonna remove it just for the sake of adding it, just so we can show you how to do that. I'm gonna add a video capture device. You can obviously create a new one or add existing ones. I'm going to create a new one today. We're gonna call it webcam. Now, something like this will show up and you'll have to choose a device. Make sure you choose the webcam or the visual element that you want to see and press OK. You can drag it around the screen up here or resize it using your hand or even flip it, transform it any way you want by right clicking. You can add filters if you really want to and then edit the properties of the video, but for now, let's just keep it simple. Audio elements though, down here, you'll have to add audio to every scene that you want to record. So right now, you'll see that a signal is being picked up. That's because it's recording from my webcam. All of your audio sources will appear over here, and obviously you can adjust your volume in the mixer. Remember, anything in the red starts to sound bad because that's what we call clipping. So let's make sure we stay right at the top of the green, and maybe sometimes a little bit into the yellow. Be cautious, because if you're going to scream, it will go into the red. Finally, your controls. This just tells you when to start streaming, start recording, studio mode, settings, and obviously when you're done streaming to exit. To build a host introduction slide like this, you want to start by adding a scene. We're going to do that by pressing the plus button here, and maybe type in as the scene title, host introduction. For my sake, I'm just going to put demo at the end. Now you have an empty scene with no sources. Let's add a source. It would make sense to start with the backdrop, what's going to be in the most furthest background. And that's going to be an image. Now your image, I already have the existing images here. You can always do that if you want to use the same backdrop. Maybe it's like a curtain or just a flat color. But for us, I'm going to make a new backdrop. Backdrop 1. Now, it'll tell you to select an image. I want to browse until you find that image. Just for fun, I'm going to use a picture of my former college. Now, it's going to come up based on the image size. It might be very large. Like this photo, see how large it is? It kind of drags through. We want to fit all of it, right? So what do we want to do? We can either drag it around until we like it, or you can right-click it and then transform the image. You can rotate them, you can stretch them, center them. We're just going to fit to screen. Now you'll see that there's some black banners on the left and the right. What you might want to do there, just drag up a little bit and drag down until it kind of stretches across the screen. Or you could have just pressed stretch too. Now that I'm kind of satisfied with where it is, I can lock it down in my sources. You can also hide it using this button, the eyeball button. Now we want to add a video on top of that. This is going to be a really ugly host introduction screen. We're going to select video capture device, maybe label this one webcam. I need to label mine demo for the sake. Now you'll be able to select a device and the resolution of that device. I'm going to choose Pro Webcam. There I am. Hello. And then I'm going to choose the right resolution that we want to use. I'll keep mine at 720 for now. Once again, you can drag, move, and place wherever you'd like. Finally, if you ever wanted to hide your face, I'd highly recommend just using this button. But remember, you can also play around with the layering. Right now, the backdrop is in the back. But if I move the webcam down, oh no, where have I gone? Because the webcam is behind the backdrop. I hope that makes sense. Top to bottom, that's how you will see things. Finally, an audio input. We want to be able to hear what is going on. So, if it's the webcam, we're going to choose webcam, audio, right? And this is where we would select the right audio source. I'm going to choose my Pro Webcam. Press OK. Now, it really doesn't matter where the audio source is because we don't see audio, we hear audio. But over in the audio mixer, this is where you'll be able to adjust levels and add filters if you'd like. can click on this gear bar here to look at the properties. Once again, that's just what source I've used. I can look at the filters, which would be like adding a noise gate. Noise gates are pretty complex. It only starts picking up noise at a certain volume. So if you have like a fan going on in the background, you can hide that noise using a noise gate. I recommend messing around with a couple of these. Just experiment until you get something you like, but don't try too hard. It'll take forever. Finally, advanced audio properties. You can select different options here. If you want to use headphones to hear yourself, see how it sounds, you can always select this. Sync offset is actually quite important. Right now, the movement of my mouth might sync up with the words that I am saying, right? But if for some reason they don't, you can add 100 to this number to see if it starts to sync up. It's kind of a way to adjust latency. But you won't have to worry about that at first. Make sure your levels never really go into the red. Make sure they stay there. And now you have a host slide that you can move things around. We're going to build a performer scene as if we had pre-recorded videos. We're going to use OBS to present those videos. So I have started with a backdrop. It's the same host backdrop, but you can always change this using PowerPoint, Keynote, or Google Slides. I wouldn't make my backdrops in OBS. I'd make them in an external platform and then bring them in as an image. So you can start by adding the image. I've already done that though. You just go to image, make a new one, and then, drop it in. Let's get rid of that for now. So I have the backdrop. I have the webcam audio, which is me as my audio. We can actually remove that for the sake of this slide. And we can add in a video source, right? So it's actually not going to say video, it's going to say media. So that could be really any form of media. We're going to browse for that file. And I'm going to go into my downloads and just choose a song that I wrote before. Now, you have options here. You can loop the audio. You can restart playback when the source becomes active. Basically, it'll always start from the beginning if you select that source. I highly recommend keeping that on. And then show nothing when playback ends. Yes, once again, once the song is over, we kind of don't want to see it loop again. So kind of keep these settings as they go. You don't want to change the speed and the color range for right now. So we'll just add this in. And my video actually starts black, so this isn't a great example. But what we can do is drag it up top here. Make sure it fits in the little block, and it will stay there as the video plays. Now look, this audio at the bottom right is capturing from the single media source. This is the song audio. We want to bring it down so it kind of sounds good, not in the red. And now we have a performer slide. I can keep clicking through different performers, and every time I click back to that first performer, his video will start over. Settings before we even start streaming. They're very important to how well your stream comes out on the other end. So we'll skip the general slide and go to stream. You'll want to select your service, so whether it's Facebook or Twitch or YouTube or any of all of these, you'll want to make sure you pick the right one. So let's just pretend we're going to stream on YouTube, okay? Now leave the server, whatever it says, primary or backup. It's always going to pick the best server for you, just based on your connection. And then the stream key is the most important part. Every user gets their own stream key, meaning this is like your password to stream on our site so that we are sure we're only receiving your signal. So that's when you'd probably click Get Stream Key. If you're on Facebook, it'll actually, you're going to want to go live first. So you'll go to a post, like you're ready to post it, press Go Live, and then your stream key will appear somewhere in their live producer screen. So once you have that stream key, make sure nobody sees it. Nobody can see your stream key. Make sure you just copy and paste it in there, whatever it is. And then that's your password to stream. Your output. This is kind of the data side of things. How much data is Facebook or YouTube or Twitch going to receive so that you can, broadcast your stream. The video bitrate is just telling us how much video data you will be sending per second. So you always want to refer to your internet speeds, and in the guide I've kind of listed out what internet speed you should have and what kilobits per second you should be streaming at. I would say at a minimum, you don't want to go anywhere below 1,000. And that's literally 1 megabyte per second. And most people usually have at least 4 or 5 megabits per second to stream from on their internet speed. But obviously, the higher this number can go based on your Ethernet connection, your internet connection, the better your stream gets.
If it kind of goes lower than 1000, you'll start to see it get a little crunchier, and it'll still go through, it's not going to be as visually appealing. Your encoding. Most computers only have software encoding, but if you have like a graphics card, you could use hardware encoding. Encoding is just a way of saying how that data is translated and sent to certain, streaming platforms. YouTube already does their own transcoding, which means they translate it to their system. That's why YouTube streams are usually the best. But just leave it on software, because that is actually the fastest one, even if you do have a graphics card. Now, because this is a virtual mic night, the audio is probably going to be a lot more important than the video. So if for some reason your video cut out, you'd still want your audio to sound good. That's why you always want to keep this number, audio bitrate, above 128. In fact, original MP3s that you would download from from iTunes used to be at 128, and they'd go all the way up to 320. But sitting right around those numbers, 128 to 320, that's a good way. I'd say 320 is overkill. You really won't need that much. Your audio, you will just want to make sure your sample rate is 44.1 and your channels are stereo. Now, a cool thing that OBS lets you do is have devices always enabled. So if for some reason you wanted to record one mic for every single scene, you could actually include it by doing that there. Then when I press apply, it'll appear down here too. So that's up to you. If you want to use these devices, they would just appear in every single scene. So that's like if you wanted to just talk behind every single scene. Finally, your video settings. You just want to make sure your canvas is 1080p, because even if you're not streaming at 1080p quality, it will downgrade it to 720. I think the best thing to do is to make sure your photos and videos look the best, is to have it on 1080p. And your FPS value, yeah, you shouldn't go above 30, because most streaming platforms won't even let you go above 30, depending on their connection and your connection to it. One more thing I want to bring up is the advanced settings. There is one little new addition to OBS that might actually help your stream, and it's this right here in network. It says dynamically change bitrate to manage congestion. So remember that number that we set up in output, 1,000 kilobits per second. If for some reason it detects that our computer can handle more, it will give us more. And if it says, oh wait, we're using too much, we need to go down, it'll turn it down for us too. So it's kind of like an automatic, mixer for it. So it'll tell you if it wants to go up or down. So that's just your options. Make sure you hit apply and then OK, and you're ready to start streaming.
So I hope this video helped you in understanding OBS and how you can use technology to reach your audience through live streaming. In the description below, I've recommended some resources and maybe some hardware that you might look into purchasing in order to have the best live stream. If you have any questions, I recommend that you tune in to one of our virtual open mic nights at radio.nicoplays.live. Not only will you get to see a professional live stream in action, you can always ask me a question during the stream and I'm happy to answer it. Also, let me know in the comments if you end up putting your own live stream out there. I'd love to tune in and see how you did it. Thanks for watching, and go make music in the world of noise.